Hi, Brad Haywood, Executive Director of Justice Forward Virginia, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about public defender pay parity, which is one of Justice Forward's top line legislative priorities for the 2022 legislative session. So, as you may know, public defenders in the United States are chronically under resourced and underfunded. So, on typically most jurisdictions, most states, public defenders make considerably less than private defense attorneys, but they also make considerably less than prosecutors in their same jurisdictions. And this really affects not just, not just somebody's bottom line, but it affects justice. So, as noble as we'd like to think our motivations are as people who get into criminal justice reform advocacy or public interest law, specifically indigent defense, so that idealism sometimes only gets you so far. So at some point, people have to, if they are a few years into their career, they start having kids, they start having greater financial obligations. The low pay just makes it very difficult to attract and retain talented, experienced attorneys. And it really, honestly, it plays out just like it would if you think about like a sports team. In a sports league, the Major League Baseball, the New York Yankees can pay for any player they want. Or in soccer, the Real Madrid or Manchester City can pay for any player they want. They can get the most loaded roster because they have more money. They can pay them higher salaries, and they end up having more talent. And when you have more talent, you have more experience, you win more games. And courtrooms aren't that much different than that. If you can retain people who are more talented, or attract people who are more talented, who are more experienced, then you're going to have probably a better chance in the courtroom, and that's no surprise. So right now we've got a system that, in order to keep it level, we're giving prosecutors more money, but then we're expecting public defenders to be as good as the prosecutors just based on their idealism and their passion. And you know what? We very often are. We're very often just as good, if not better. But still, that's not the same. That's not true everywhere, and it trickles down. If you're in some of these rural or sort of exurb jurisdictions where it's a little harder to attract people, young attorneys than say Arlington County, they're not, they really can't sustain a top level true believer public defender practice on that. So what our bill does is, I'm going to add one other thing to this. So another aspect that makes this worse in Virginia is not only are prosecutors just sort of as a default paid a little bit more than public defenders, but many jurisdictions, cities and counties, will pay them a salary supplement. So the salary supplement is like a bonus check they get from their local government on top of what they get from their state pay, because their state pay is sort of the default pay. And the county's like, we'll give you a little extra money because we want really good prosecutors. So there are dozens of jurisdictions where prosecutors get these salary supplements, and then there are only a handful, I think 8 or 9 in Virginia, where public defenders also get supplements. So in many places, in the places where there are public defenders that get salary supplements, they're often like way less than the prosecutor supplements. I'm the chief public defender in Arlington County, and that's a good, we're a good example of that. Even though we receive a supplement for our attorneys, by position, in terms of position in the office, experience level, seniority, we're paid sometimes 25 to 40% less than the prosecutors. But think about that's what we've got in Arlington. It's even worse in places where the public defenders don't get supplements. So this legislation, what it would do is it would require cities and counties that provide their prosecutors a salary supplement to provide a commensurate supplement to the public defender attorneys. So like if a deputy Commonwealth's attorney, another name for a prosecutor in Virginia, if they get a 40% salary supplement, then the deputy public defender should also get a 40% salary supplement, and so forth and so on down the line for seniority and experience within the office. And, overall, it will help level the playing field, allow it to be a fair fight in courtrooms, and give indigent defendants as good a shot as people not with private attorneys. And lastly, I think there's also a lot to be said about diversity. Right now, and this is really terrible, but the Indigent Defense Commission knows this. Public defenders offices in Virginia are not very diverse. Northern Virginia for a long time, in the several public defenders offices until just like a year and a half ago, there was only one black public defender. If you can believe that. Huge percentage of our caseload are black and brown people, and we just, our offices were not representative of what our clients were like. And, in our field, it is having lived experience, having experience, understanding the implicit bias, the explicit bias, sort of the racism that's inbuilt to our system, and being able to passionately advocate from that perspective is a huge advantage. And also just being able to relate to clients who've had similar experiences, that's a huge advantage. And it's very difficult. A lot of people if you've grown up in challenging circumstances, you don't want to make you got $150,000 in student debt. You don't want to make $60,000 for the rest of your life when you're living in Arlington County and paying $1,800 or $2,000 for a freaking studio apartment. So, it's just, there are places, you look at the difference across the river, go over to the Public Defender Service in the District of Columbia. They're an incredibly diverse office, and they don't have a difficult time attracting and retaining talent and attracting and retaining a diverse attorney pool. And that's because they are able to pay out the nose. And I'm not joking. It's like insane how much money they make, but it's great. That's the way it ought to be. So that's what we want. We want, at least this first step, we want public defenders and prosecutors in the jurisdictions where prosecutors get supplements for public defenders to get the same supplements. So we can level that playing field and promote justice. That's it. Thanks for listening.